Have you ever been stuck in one of those boring jiu-jitsu matches where you and your opponent completely negate each other's setups and grip attempts and nothing really happens? It's like you're stuck rolling through a barren wasteland, desperately searching for that oasis of an opportunity, a single opening that will quench your thirst for a submission. And not only are these deadlock matches boring to watch, but after a full round like this, are you even improving at all? In this video, we're gonna go over a simple strategy where you can leave bait for your opponent to get them to open up and break the stalemate. And this includes detailed breakdowns of 3 traps you can set, each leading straight into submission attacks that most people will never see coming. And if you don't already know me, my name's Sean. I'm a BJJ black belt and a founder of the BJJ education app, Jiu-Jitsu, which if you wanted to check out, I put a link in the description with some free instructional content. I'm also starting a newsletter where I expand on the topics in my videos, but also dive into some of the nerdier stuff, like the intersection of technology, AI, and jiu-jitsu. I'll be sure to include a link down below as well. The first common scenario we're going to review in this video is from the standing position. And what can happen here is that both competitors will grip fight, maybe battle for head control, but neither will fully commit to any sort of takedown. It can be really difficult to get things going in these situations, especially if your opponent is negating every grip you set up. To get your opponent to commit to something, you have to give them an opening, somewhere to seek refuge from a boring ass match. But we don't want to make it too obvious.
That's bait.
The first trap we're going to set is we're going to give them an opening for a single leg and use that to set up the Darce submission. But before we get into that, I want to briefly mention that most of the instructional content I'll be sharing with you in this video is from Edwin Najmi. If you're not already familiar with Edwin, he's won gold at Pans, silver at Worlds, and won countless other tournaments over the years. And one of the things he's known for is his Darce choke. And what's so unusual about this is that he's had success with this submission, not just in no-gi, but it's something he's pulled off at the highest levels in gi competition. So now with that out of the way, you want to give them an opportunity to go for the single leg. So there's a few things to pay attention to here. You want to have an open stance, meaning you both have the same lead leg, kind of like what you see here. And you want to give them a clear path, so you don't want to be ready to intercept them with this hand. You want to make sure you're in range so that they can easily grab your leg. And once this is all set, you have to be very ready to counter once they shoot in and take the bait.
If I need to shoot a single leg, I just, even if he picks me up, the first thing I'm gonna start working is to get a wizard. Okay? So I'm gonna start getting a wizard just to create some space. Like so. Okay? The second thing that I want to work for, a lot of times it's gonna give me a lot of power. My partner has a good grip, right? I want a good single leg, strong single leg. The second thing I want to work for before I start going for the Darce is to get my leg on the floor. Okay? So depending, if I can get my hand to get here, then I can start getting my leg to the floor, kicking, and going for the position. But sometimes my partner's gonna have a really tight single leg, like a high single leg, exactly here. I'm just gonna start, first thing I'm gonna do is start pushing his head, using his wizard, to get my leg on the floor, okay? Once I get my foot on the floor, he can still have the single leg, but I have some space now to start working for my Darce.
So one detail I really want to emphasize here, it's very important you control their head here with this arm, because they want to get their head up in your chest area, right underneath your head here. This gives them a strong posture and gives them a strong base to finish the single leg. Once you're able to stiff arm here and create space, then you can start to counter and then set up the Darce.
First thing I do, look, wizard, create some space, use my hand on his head. Even if he's so tight here, I'm just, so grab a little tighter, yeah. It's okay, I'm just creating some space to get my foot on the floor. Once I get my foot on the floor, my hand comes through, grabs this, palm to palm. Now once I get here, guys, it's a quick transition. I sprawl and then I crank using this grip pretty quickly at the same time. So like I kick through, push, get him here. Once I get here, automatically, guys, I'm pulling him into me, grabbing his leg, hooking it, using my leg on the side of the post. Right line goes through, grab my bicep, grab the shoulder, drop.
By the way, did you know almost 85% of viewers aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this video, please show your support and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out so I can keep making these videos. So with that last technique fresh in our minds, I want to break down a recent match from ADCC 2007, and that's Marcelo Garcia versus Robert Drysdale. I was fortunate enough to be at this tournament live in the stands in New Jersey, and Marcelo Garcia, he was on a tear throughout the entire event. And this is back when Marcelo really started to pull off his signature guillotine and north-south chokes at ADCC for the first time, getting a couple submissions with each of them. It was in the finals of the absolute division where Robert Drysdale and Marcelo met. While Marcelo was a lot smaller than Robert, in my mind at the time, Marcelo was still the favorite after being in peak form, tearing through everyone throughout the tournament. A great time to set traps with this strategy we've been talking about in this video is during the no points period in ADCC. This is because if you leave an opening and things don't go your way and you get taken down or you lose position, you don't give up points, so the risk is much less. So for the match itself, early on there were a few exchanges, with Marcelo going for one of his favorite takedowns, the single leg. At one point he was even able to briefly put Drysdale down to the mat before he was able to make space and scramble away. And it's not long after Marcelo's going to set up another single leg here. He's going to get underneath Drysdale's arm, but notice how far he has to shoot across to get the single. So Drysdale's going to sprawl and get on top. And it's from here Drysdale's going to use that to set up his Darce. He has angle on Marcelo and he shoots the arm through and he's going to sit through and he's going to go for the Darce from the bottom position here. And in this scramble, Marcelo's going to get out. They're going to go back to turtle right here. And now Drysdale's going to finish more in a conventional finishing position on top. And he's going to get the tap right here. Recently, Drysdale talked about his game plan and the submission in this match in the Unleashed podcast with James Noon.
My goal with him was to scramble, was to catch him in the scramble, him trying to hold me down, me getting back up, him shooting a single. I had the Darce in my head because it was something I was hitting a lot in practice. So someone that's like really big and heavy, your arms may not be long enough for the Darce, but he had a narrow frame, so I thought the Darce might be the move to hit him with.
So what I wanted to talk about from that match is if they do go for the single leg and you're able to sprawl completely and they let go of that leg, you can still attack the Darce from the conventional front headlock. Like from this sort of position, you can get a palm-to-palm grip, use that to pull them in, bring your elbows together to bring them down to their side for a conventional finish, or you can roll underneath like what Drysdale did. But I want to point out here, Drysdale has really long arms and Marcelo has a more narrow frame, so he's able to connect the hand to the bicep, but we can use this grip as well to roll underneath and get the finish from the bottom.
Trying to get him over, I can't. So I unhook my leg, and now I'm gonna go for the Darce we talked about, the diving Darce, okay? So remember guys, it's gonna be the same time I uppercut my right arm, the one that's right here, same time my leg's gonna kick out. So I start sitting through, same time my hand goes through, I squeeze my bicep and my ear toward his body. Make sure you can't posture up, okay? Once I get here, immediately my hand gets my bicep, get my hand on his shoulder, and start walking, squeezing, and I get the submission.
So before we get into our next Darce trap, which I think is even sneakier, if you haven't noticed already, all the instructional footage I've been sharing with you in this video are from a course available on jiu-jitsu from Edwin called Darce the World. The full course includes additional setups of the Darce choke, including different grips for the finish and important mechanics for the submission. And the course was just remastered to make it all higher quality. The full course is behind a paywall, but I want to share some of the things with you in this video. You can purchase the course individually or subscribe to get access to every single instructional on jiu-jitsu, including Triangles and More Triangles by Edwin, where he goes over the proper progression to work up towards his famous flying triangle, as well as courses from John Calestine, Jason Rao, Mason Fowler, and many more. And if you want to check it out and that sounds interesting to you, I'll be sure to include a link in the description below. And for a limited time, you can use the coupon code FIRST7 to get your first month for just $7. So the next option we're going to go over in our journey to become a masturbator. So the next trap we're going to set, this time instead of using the single leg, we're going to use a double leg. So as opposed to the single leg, they're more likely to shoot the double if your feet are square or aligned like they are with Edwin, or if you have your leg on the opposite side of their lead leg, like Edwin's left leg, if that were forward, like right here.
Okay guys, so my partner goes for a double leg here, right? And I can't really sprawl all the way. I just create a little bit of space to get my hand through. So once I get my hand through, guys, kind of like go for a guillotine, and I'm kind of giving him a takedown. So he's going for a double leg. This is the first thing I do when he goes for double leg. I'm going for the guillotine, okay? He thinks I'm going for the guillotine. A lot of times, the wrestler, when you go for the guillotine, he's still gonna take you down, right? He's still gonna continue with it. They feel pretty comfortable with that.
So the guillotine off the double leg is a great trap in and of itself. But what can happen, especially if you can't sprawl, they're gonna take you down anyway, and they're gonna drive their head to the opposite side as they pass the other way and sweep your legs over. But actually, this is exactly what we want to set up the Darce choke.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
So the second I go for the guillotine, when I clasp my hands together, my right hand is gonna shoot through like we did before and go for the Darce. I'm gonna try to do it as slow as possible for you guys, but it's gonna be pretty hard. My partner's taking me down, okay? So let's just back up a little bit. Mike shoots a double leg. As soon as he gets it, I go for a guillotine. The second my hands clasp, he thinks I'm going for a guillotine. Look, I just drop to my side. My right hand goes through, grab my bicep, grab his back, I squeeze, and then I get the finish.
What's so sneaky about this one is that we're not just giving them the double leg setup, but we're also letting them pass the legs into what they think is side control, but we end up finishing in the bottom position, just like we went over before from turtle. Before we go into ideal situations for this strategy, I wanted to go over one more position where matches often stalemate. And this is where one grappler is seated, playing guard, and the guard passer is on their feet. And what can happen here is that neither will fully commit to anything, as a person passing won't try to form a strong connection unless they can really get a dominant position, and the person on bottom doesn't want to overextend or leave any openings. So one thing you can do here on bottom is to give them some opportunity, some small opening to give them some hope to think that they can pass your guard. As they sidestep the pass to the outside, rather than trying to remain seated and maintain distance and squaring up, you can accept this and then fall back to supine. Rather than trying to recover and retain guard from here, a topic we covered on this channel in a recent video. So normally from this position where they pass to the outside, you're supine, you have like a side guard position to retain guard. You have this frame right here on their bicep. One of the purposes of this frame is to prevent them from going north-south. But in this case now, we're going to be a little bit lazy with that. We're going to leave it open. We're going to cut them loose, giving them the opportunity to try to pass to north-south. And you want to anticipate them coming north-south, so you have your frames in place and you're ready to counterattack. One of the things we can do from north-south is we can go for the K-guard position. Now it depends where your opponent's grips are, but one option we have here, if they control your leg still, is that we can overwrap their grip and then set up the K-hook.
Okay, always keeping everything in nice and tight. I'm gonna over wrap here to kill this. This foot circles the thumb line, and now from here, now I can start looking to establish a good kick guard. I want to keep this nice and tight here. Now from here, I'm in good position. We're here, and now I can start working from there to start attacking.
And once we have K-guard established, then we can immediately counterattack. For example, we can break them down to backside 50-50 and attack the heel hook. So that recovers from a distance if they keep control of your legs. But what's going to happen often when they run past your side guard and they get to north-south, they're going to lower their level and they're going to try to get chest to chest. When that happens, it's really important you get your frames inside their armpits here. You don't let them get inside position underneath your armpits. Now you can recover if you can get your knee underneath their shoulder here, but John shows a really cool way to whip your leg around to K-guard if you can't get that.
I feel that even when I get this, I'm having a hard time from there. They're pressuring heavy. From here, I'm gonna whip my leg over and we're gonna catch. Wrist control, underhook, extend, they pull away, foot comes across, knee and elbow position from here. And now we have a good strong position to start attacking our K-guard there.
So this is just one attack from here, but one grappler to watch, especially in his early days, is Ryan Hall. He would often give people space to come around to the outside and use that to catch him in different submissions. And as they were going around his guard, he'd make sure to maintain distance with frames, usually with a knee, so they couldn't get inside and get chest to chest. And if they pressured into this, lowering their level, trying to get inside position, this is typically when he would invert and attack a triangle choke. And if they posture up to avoid the threat of the triangle choke, or even before that, that's when Ryan Hall would often use this position to instead attack the legs, looking for the 50-50 position, often finishing people with a heel hook. Before we move on and talk about some of the ideal situations to use some of the strategies we talked about in this video, are there any traps that you like to set for your opponents? I'm really curious, and I'm sure others are as well. A big part of when this strategy is useful comes down to rule set. Like what we went over in the Drysdale match, it's really useful in the no points period of ADCC. For example, Gordon Ryan said he used this rule set to his advantage versus Nicky Rod, get him taken down early in the match to give him an opportunity to get a leg lock while they're still dry. But there are plenty of other rule sets that don't have a point system as well. For example, the Eddie Bravo Invitational doesn't have points, and UFC Fight Pass, typically during regulation, also doesn't have points. For example, in a recent match in Fight Pass Invitational, Mason Fowler turned his knees down to one side from guard, giving an opportunity for his opponent to get the underhook and pin Mason's knees together. This is a position which many guard passers will take, but Mason is very good at recovering from here. and using this as bait to set up the triangle from rubber guard. And while there aren't traditional points in the Craig Jones Invitational rule set, if you were to say go for that double leg Darce counter we went over in this video, and your opponent goes for it and they get the double leg and then they pass the side control and you don't get it, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to win the round. So it's still a risk even in that rule set. Of course, this doesn't mean this strategy doesn't have its place in a traditional rule set, but you have to be very careful which openings you give your opponent. Like if you go for one of these moves and they score points in you, the problem is you're behind on points and they're going to take even less risk. So you have to be really mindful, and the openings you give them, make sure you're really comfortable defending and countering from there. But all the things we talked about so far in this video related to competition, but even if you don't compete, using this strategy of leaving bait and setting traps for your opponent is a great tool for training as well. Like there's nothing worse than a 5-minute roll where all you and your training partner do is negate each other's grips. Like we said earlier in the beginning of this video, are you really improving at all if you're doing that? So intentionally leaving opportunities for your opponent to attack moves things along. It gives you chances to practice counter wrestling, guard retention, and escapes. At the end of the day, you only have so much time you can spend training. So you want it to be as efficient as possible and use that time to make sure you're developing skills. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching.